Hello everybody, my name is James Davies and welcome to Photo Chat Vlog on YouTube. This episode is dedicated to an experimental project that I did with some fellow photographers. For the last few years I've been a member of a group on Facebook called the Colour Film Photography Group. We share images and swap stories about cameras, techniques and film. Although it should be obvious from the title of the group, the two big rules are the pictures have to be in colour and they have to be taken on film. Anyway, it's a friendly group with some great photographers in it, and back in 2016 a number of enthusiasts amongst us thought it would be a fun idea to share a camera between us. The idea would be that we'd source one camera and one film, and we'd all get a chance to take some photos with them. We'd get all of our addresses together, send off the camera and film to the first person, and they'd take their photos and they'd send it off to the next person. And they'd take their photos and send it on to the next person, and so on, all around Europe to each other until we used up the film. Then it would go off and be developed, and at some point we'd get to see the pictures via Facebook. So we set up a new closed group called the CPFG, Colour Film Photography Group, Travelling Camera Europe and UK Edition, and we assembled the interested enthusiasts. Somebody located a disposable camera and we were off. Or so we thought. Pretty early on, this first disposable camera got lost in the post. It got out to a few of the people on the list, and then after being posted off one day, it never arrived with whoever was meant to get it next. Now undaunted, we tried again, and this time it was a quite nice rangefinder tap camera. Now that definitely reached me in the post, and I took my 3 photographs on it, and it got on its way in the postal service eventually, but again, somewhere further down the line, it never arrived with whoever was meant to have it next, and we had to admit defeat once more. Now 2 lost cameras did seem like bad luck, and some of us were kind of thinking about whether to give up on it, but another camera was eventually sourced, a little plastic Halina camera which didn't need batteries. It was paired with a film, and this time, well, it seemed to work because in the end, it came back. I think it took about a year to go all around our group who were in the UK and Europe. The major hold-up with all of this turned out to be everybody's busy lives. I myself got the camera on the 2nd of August 2017, for example, and it took me until the 18th of September to even take the first photograph with it, because I was away taking photographs of the eclipse of the sun, which you can see in Photo Chat Vlog Season 3, Episode 1. Now, of course, part of me wanted my 3 pictures to be fantastic and to really count. But in the end, I just decided to take the camera out and about with me when I was at lunchtime at my job, and I would take my 3 photographs quickly and simply and not get too worried about all the details. So in true YouTube style, let's start off with me unboxing the camera on the 18th September 2017. I got my mate to film me doing this. Now as you can see, the box was nice and big, and I remember when we did this unboxing how well packed it all was. Under all of the bubble wrap and the packing peanuts was actually another box, and in this box, under more packing, was this cute sign which says clicky clicky, and then we actually get to the camera. This is a Halina Panorama which needed a little bit of tape to hold the door shut. It had Agfa Vista 200 ASA colour film in it, and I was about the 7th person to get the camera. So this unboxing was filmed in Oxford in the UK, in a passageway, in a building called the Taylorian Institute, which is next to a big museum called the Ashmolean Museum. So I decided to take a photograph there and then, and my mate took this little bit of video of me taking my first photograph. So if you've ever wondered what I look like, well, there I am with my funky haircut and shades. It was a rainy day, and that's me taking the photo. Now this is the actual photograph of the Taylorian Institute, which is on St Giles, in Oxford in the UK. I didn't bother to take anything other than a representative photograph of this building. I tried to keep things fairly well balanced and symmetrical with the passageway in the centre and the pillars flanking that, which is kind of nice because the building has all of that symmetry just going on with it. Now this part of Oxford is very popular with tourists, not only because of the museum, but also because it's where buses and coaches park up, and you will have seen one in fact in the video of me taking the image. Because it was my lunchtime and I only had 3 shots, I couldn't really wait until I had the perfect shot. So we do have 2 people in this image as well. There's a person in red right in the distance at the end of the passageway standing outside the museum, and there's the lady on the right striding towards the edge of the frame. Now I think they both add something to the image as being representative of the busy place that it is. even though it might have been interesting to see what it was like without either of them. But the rain and taking up my friend's lunchtime and the large number of people prevented me from waiting for any kind of perfect shot. So that's kind of it, but what does strike me about the image is how well lit it is, given that it was a rainy, overcast day. It's almost as if I was using flash, but I wasn't. Now, I didn't take the next photograph until the next day, so the camera would have been put away after this image was taken, and we would have gone off to do something else for the rest of our lunchtime. And so we moved to picture number 2, which is of the new Westgate shopping centre in Oxford, and you can see here that this was when it was still being built. I was at this lunchtime with another friend, and he took this very brief video of me taking the photo. I think I chose this shot purely because my mate likes a sandwich shop nearby, and whilst he was getting his sandwich, I decided the Westgate would make for an interesting photo. On reflection, however, I don't think there's actually very much that's interesting about this image. There is an interesting curvy shape to the building in real life, but this isn't really captured in this image. It's kind of spoilt by the shape in the top left corner, which is something dark intruding into the frame. I could have cropped this out, but all these pictures are unedited and straight out of the camera. The image is also spoilt for me by the blue barrier at the bottom not being parallel with anything else in the composition, and it not being very well framed. Now, other people in the collaboration have commented that their pictures were not as well framed and not as straight as they thought they would be, so maybe I just fell foul of that. As it is, building sites can be fantastic places to take photographs, but this one just isn't really happening for me. The only thing that I think is interesting about this picture is the line of birds that are sitting on the top of the building. I might have made more of a feature of them by cropping the image, but with this being a collaboration, I wanted to keep the true character of the film and the camera, no matter how disappointing this image turned out to be for me. I should also point out that the square where I took the photo and the building works in general were very busy, and I didn't really have the time or space to make much more of the composition than I did. There wasn't much opportunity to walk about the space and get the best angle and so forth. I realise I am being a bit hard on myself, but honestly what you got is what you see. An image taken in a hurry, in a crowded space, on a grey day. So moving on to the third and final image, we have a change of scene, because this was taken in Banbury, which is a town about 25 miles north of Oxford. There is no video of me taking this one, but this was shot right outside the railway station as the sun was going down over the town one evening. Now, I love film, and one of the reasons I love it is that there is no danger of damaging film by pointing it directly at the sun, like you might damage a digital camera, or at least have it complain that you're doing something like that. So when you have your camera loaded up with film, it's effectively sitting there saying, "Give me those photons." And I love satisfying greedy film by taking shots directly into the sun. So praise be to lomography for letting this sort of image actually exist. Once upon a time this photo would have come back from the lab with a sticker on it saying something like, "Don't point your camera directly at the sun, it makes things look crap." But there is a certain aesthetic when it comes to the type of images that the lomography encouraged, and I'm going to be quite pretentious and label this sort of thing as impressionist. And by that I mean that if the end result really evoked an impression of a moment, and that obviously superseded the technical constraints of either the camera or the film, then that's okay. If you can see past overexposure or underexposure, or you can see beyond a slow shutter or some unoptimal framing, and you just enjoy what the image is trying to say, then you probably enjoyed lomography. The essence seems to be one of the image fulfilling the idea of being there. So having walked out of Banbury Station quite a lot of times, I can tell you that when the sun is going down in the autumn evenings, this picture is what it's like. This is exactly what it's like when the sun is really blinding and you just have to have faith that you aren't going to bump into somebody because you're squinting so much whilst you're walking. Eventually on your journey, the sun will sink behind a building or a street sign and it'll give you a break. But this image is all about those few moments when you just have to deal with it. Now that flare that we can see, that crescent flare towards the bottom of the frame, is a mechanical aberration in the camera lens, but it somehow makes perfect sense in the image by replicating the sun's immense power, and it sums up for me that experience of walking along and holding your hand in front of your forehead in a kind of improvised peak to shield your eyes from the brightness. The sun reflecting off the buildings on the right hand side is exactly what happens on this street, and it's probably what happens in many towns, on many streets all over the world at this time of the evening. So although I'm describing an image taken in one particular place, I think there is likely to be a lot of familiarity in this image, regardless of its location. So for people who are accommodating to the idea of impressionist photography, then this image may strike a chord with the pedestrian commuter, the person walking home from the railway station. It may strike a chord with the notion of tea time in the UK, home time, and the end of the day, and I really like it. It's proof to me that you can always have fun with a camera, even a random camera with random film in it. There are also a few other interesting things going on in this image. I don't know if it's the harsh exposure, but look how red the traffic lights and the brake lights in the vehicles are. In particular, look at the motorbike and how its brake lights look almost burnt out. To me, that's where the term impressionist sits appropriately with this image. It's like a painter trying to give the impression of a saturated vehicle rear light, who has trusted the intensity of the colour and the blurriness of the shape to evoke this, over and above any attempt at a purely technical rendering. But in this image, it's actually what that combination of the little camera and the film made of this scene. And I'm also going to mention it again, but the way the sun is rendered, well, it's just so stellar with all of its beaming rays. You can really tell that our sun, that we take for granted every day, is actually a star, showering us with photons and allowing our planet to photosynthesize and be warm and to move water across continents in the form of rain. That's the sun that shines on the whole planet, and the afternoon when I took that photograph, it was shining down on Banbury. So that was my last shot, and my part of the tale of the little travelling camera. If it inspired you to try anything like that, I would urge you to get on and do it. It's a fascinating way to see what other people see, and there's something special about the fact that we all had to use the exact same camera and film. It may seem like a subtle difference, but it isn't the same as saying, I've got model A camera and I use brand X film, and someone else saying, oh, I've got that camera too and I use that film sometimes as well. With everybody having to use the same single camera and a roll of film, the variables were absolutely reduced down to the simplest rules of photography. Think, point and shoot. Now the downside, of course, is that the project was slow, and we actually managed to lose 2 cameras trying to achieve it, which is crazy when you think about it. A camera is an actual thing, it's quite a considerable object, and it baffles me and it saddens me somewhat that they actually got lost. So it's really cool that we got to the end of the roll of film on this one. It was a nice way to interact with a group of people who may never meet in real life, but who were all able to do something that unified us with this little box of tricks. So as ever, if you like what you see and hear, and haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel, and please leave me a comment if you want to talk about anything in the video. The link on the screen will take you to a page where you can link to more photographs and things that I'm sharing online. When the next video is ready, I'll see you back here. Until then, bye for now.